Alright guys, welcome back to Mac Farms. We're here tapping some nipple trees today. I even got a cameraman today, which is new. So I got my hut here. I'll show you my little hut that I made.
Wait till he gets the bill.
Huh?
So wait till you get the bill for the cameraman.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Alright, so tapping this year is pretty simple. Last year I ran all these lateral lines and ran these lines. These were hooked in here through the winter. I just unhooked a bunch of them there. Let some of the water drain out. So all we got to do this year is drill a hole in the tree and put the tap in, and it'll be good to go. Good thing I brought the extra battery, I guess.
Leave it already?
Yeah, it's fucking dead. Just seems like dipping it in hot water seems to help a little bit.
Nah. To get it over the tap, you mean?
Over the burbs on the tap.
Yeah.
Doesn't take very long either. See?
Beautiful.
Nothing to it.
Don't hit your thumb.
Yeah.
Safety first, kids.
That's it.
Just that easy.
Just that easy. That's one down, and we'll do 25 today.
Yeah. Holy fuck, they were sharp.
Exploded, I guess.
That fucking hammer if you ain't done that, you cocks.
We got like a specialty, like all the maple syrup stuff. They got specialty tools for it too.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
the hammer's not the only thing. I seen they got a special thing for the drill for tapping, so you don't go too deep.
Oh really?
Yeah. But it's just stupid. It's like
Yeah.
they sell it with the drill for like $800 or something like that. It's like if I was that concerned, I'd put a piece of tape on the drill.
Yeah, as I was gonna say, paint it with the tape. Yeah.
So they got chrome on it and all that too. They're all black like mine.
It's all black like yours. Got a cat.
Yeah, right.
It's got like the red outline on him, so it's kind of weird. Yeah.
Mine got the red, like it says turbo diesel or whatever.
Yeah, it's that, and pretty sure the comes badge got the same thing. There's a fucking I never asked him what it was. There was a shake in the front end when I was driving.
Oh yeah.
The tire was, he had pipes in the back, and that was that. You know, you could fucking feel it when you're turning.
Was it in 4-wheel drive?
No, that's what I thought. But he said the button to put it in 4-wheel drive was sticking, so it might have been that, and then just shown 2-wheel drive or something. That's what it felt like. It was only when you're making turns, like sharp turns.
Yeah, mine like when it's in 4-wheel drive, you make sharp turns, you can feel it like because the U-joints start to bind. I guess.
Yeah, same my truck too. Maybe that's what it was.
Must have been. You think it's safe 4-wheel drive though, right?
Yeah.
Oh, tricks looking serious.
No, they fixed it anyway. They didn't yesterday told me. Apparently they make a bracket now. You can still put your headache rack on.
Oh yeah.
Tonneau cover.
Take the headache rack off his old truck and switch it over. Or just gonna buy another one or what?
No, you took it out.
You got the tonneau cover on it, so you won't have to haul it. You better get one for yours too, I guess.
Yeah, fuck. You want to be the new fucking
The haul truck, yeah.
safety truck, yeah. Oh well, no good way to get a new fucking bumper anyway.
Apparently.
Practice, too. Supposed to go next week. 15,000 pieces right now, though.
Yeah, yeah. You put part of it in the 2.4 or what?
Yeah. You can walk in sideways and get to the toolbox. That's about it.
Oh yeah. They come back together one day. Yeah, they're gonna put the boat trailer in the 24. He said.
Yeah. Oh,
he said I never asked anything else after
no.
that.
Pretty much had to butter the fucking door to get it in.
Yeah.
You got it. I'm surprised you got it over the mouse and something.
Yeah.
You just scraped the side where the main door is.
Oh yeah.
Push it. Hard to close the door for a little bit. Fixed it. Need to give her a fucking drop kick to kick it.
Oh yeah.
Close it. Ooh, fuck. Bit of water on that one.
Maybe not.
Sure.
Well, it's all in the lines here.
Yeah.
We're working our way down. Like the lines are used to slow.
All the water's in there.
Yeah. Ow.
Had to go with Colin yesterday to buy a fucking motorbike.
Yeah,
North Sydney. Huh?
I remember you're saying
Yeah.
that strap.
Yeah. It's not a crotch rocker. It looks like one. It was not.
Oh yeah, look, just looks like
It's
one.
got 24 horsepower. I was like, yeah, that's still 100.
Alright, got our first 8 taps in, not taking no time at all.
No, moving on good.
Moving along to the next ones now. Alright, I got my cameraman hired on over there, tapping the tree for me. But we just finished running this lateral line here. I'm gonna have to pull some of the slack out of it. Probably won't be today. Bit of a droop in it right there. But yeah, going pretty good. We don't got too many taps left. I got some more ordered, and I got some more home. They're the wrong size though. So see what we can do anyway. So last thing we gotta do here to get ready for maple season is hook up our main line to our back of our shed here, and should be good to go then. All right, you guys on a tour of the new pump house? Let's check it out. All right, so here it is, pretty simple setup. I got my battery down there in that storage box. I have room to fit 3 of them, but I only got 1 right now. I'm only running the 1. We're gonna see if the 1 will keep up to the pump, and then if it doesn't, we might add another one. But I'm pretty sure with the solar panels on the roof, it'll keep up. Here we have our kind of solar control panel. This is the solar charge controller, and just the basic wiring and stuff. I wanted to hide it all under a box, right? So I'll just go through it quickly here. Basically these are just like main connectors for positive and negative. This here is our fuse for incoming power from the solar panels. So the solar panels are fused on this here line, this here fuse. And this is our main fuse here for the battery. The battery is fused that way, so everything that's connected to these terminals is all fused, and everything connected going in here is fused. We also have 2 small fuses here. You can see right there. The top one I believe is for the lights, and the bottom one is for this here. I put a little 12-volt power outlet, just in case I needed a little extra power to power a cell phone or something like that. So anyway, that's kind of the electronic side of that. So right here we have the pump set up. It's the same pump as we were running last year, just basically it's now enclosed in here. So we have our line coming in, and it flows down here to a valve where we can shut it off if we want to. Keeps going into our screen strainer, into the pump. The outlet of the pump is here. Comes out here. We can shut it off here if we want. It runs up and up here and out. So I'm hoping that it being up like that, it's not going to cause a problem. If it does, I mean, it's not going to be very hard to work around. I just raise my shelf up a bit, and these here joints, I threaded them, or I put threaded couplers in here. That way, it's not hard to adjust the angle, so I can raise this shelf up and make it even. It's just how it worked out when I put it in. So anyway, pump is still the same. So this is our controller. It's the same controller we were running last year. Last year I think I had it mounted on a tree or something. But anyway, it's just a Inkbird ITC 1000 temperature controller. The pump is wired into the cooling side, so whenever the temperature rises above whatever I set it at, which I believe is a half a degree, the pump comes on, and whenever it drops below that half a degree, it'll shut off. So when it's freezing, it's not running, and when it's above freezing, it's running basically. And of course we have our fuses that run the pump. The pump is on fuse on this side, and this is just a battery level indicator that I had last year on it, so I just left it. I'm working on a new setup, but it's not done yet, so I'm just going to run it like this for this year. And it's still in this protective waterproof case, because like I said, it was outside last year, but I just left it in there because, you know, why not? And yeah, that's pretty much it. We got a little window here, we can look out and see what's going on. I was just working this morning on, I gotta get another barb fitting, but I'm gonna put my vacuum gauge that's outside in here. So I got the hose ran anyway, so I'll be able to put that somewhere, wherever, I don't know. And I'll have my vacuum gauge for this end of the main line inside the shack. So yeah, turn the lights off there. So we built the shack kind of like fully for the elements. It's got an asphalt shingle roof on it. It's fully insulated, except for I haven't done the door yet, and I haven't done the floor. I don't know if I will or not, but my plan was, I don't think I'm not gonna do it this year. I know I'm not gonna do it this year, but maybe next year I might put heat in it. And the whole idea of the heat is just to keep the pump and everything warm and try to keep the sap from freezing. I'm trying to see how the solar panels are going to work out for me as far as keeping the battery topped up and stuff. I'm not sure how much stress I can put on them. I think last year I figured out that I needed about a 80 or 100 watt solar panel to keep up to the pump as far as running the battery down. And I ended up just buying a 200 watt system, hoping that it would give me a little bit extra. I wouldn't have to upgrade in the future. But this solar panel system that I bought is capable of going to 400 watts. So all I need to do is pick up another 2 solar panels. Not that I really have the room on the roof for them, but I could probably fit one more, and then I could have 300 watts of power, or I could put them somewhere else on the side or whatever. So that was kind of my thinking there, but we'll see. That's just a future kind of expansion ideas, I guess. All right, guys, so we're here at the back of the sap shack, and you can see my gauge off there in the distance on the main line. I can step up to it here a little bit. So that's the vacuum gauge on this end of the main line. What I'm going to do with that is I'm going to loosen the clamps off, and I'm going to turn it 90 degrees so it's sitting back upright. It was sitting upright before, but when I twisted the line to connect it onto the intake of the hot here, it just put a twist in the line there a little bit. So I'm just going to loosen those clamps off and twist it up. Then I'm going to put a barb fitting on it and run this tube here that I have, just this clear tube, into there, and I'll take that gauge right off of there and move it in there. That's just the other end of that line that I was talking about. And we got this here in my temperature probe. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with that. I'm not sure yet, really. It's all right where it is for now. The problem I was having, I had the probe inside before, and the temperature inside the hut was about, geez, I don't know, 5 or 6 degrees warmer than the outside ambient temperature. So the pump was running and running, but everything was so froze outside, there was no chance of it ever sucking sap. So anyway, just a few little odds and ends here trying to sort it out. This is my tank that I built last year. I built it, it's just a drum. Just got some rainwater in it now, which is kind of looking a bit grungy, so I'll probably dump that out. The rainwater tends to be a bit muddier, I guess, because it's coming off all the trees and stuff than the other stuff, because I have to put my plug back in there also. I stripped the threads on it. I had it rigged up before where it had a nipple on it, and then this here just stuck in it, but then I put this recirculating line here, which is what that is. I'll explain that more in a minute. But yeah, I just got to modify that cap a bit and I'll fix that up, so not a big deal. So yeah, all right, so we got the trees tapped there this morning. I brought out a 5-gallon bucket with me. You can see right there, it's full of water. I've found in the past that the pump really doesn't work very good unless you got some water to recirculate through it. So unfortunately, what I should be doing is tapping some trees without the pump first to get some sap to have, and then dumping the barrel so I can recirculate sap through. But I've never really had the I don't know, prior planning ability to do that. So what I end up doing is just taking a 5-gallon bucket out full of water and dumping that in the tank. It's 5 extra gallons of water I'm gonna have to boil off, but whatever, it don't matter that much. So I want to dump that in. We're going to fire up the pump, and we're going to see if we can build a little bit of vacuum on it. Like I said, half the lines on this line are hooked up right now. Another half are just teed back in to the line, and they're just teed back into like a dead tee. I'll see if I can find one. All right, so here's a line that's a lateral and a drop line that's kind of in summer mode, I guess. So we have these tees here, tees in the lateral, and this is a through, like this goes right through, but this one here, it doesn't. This is just it's blocked off. So you loop it around like that, and then just stick it back on there, and then it's sealed up. It seals up the line for the summer, and then when we go to tap them, I just pull them off and put my burb, or not my burb, my spout in for the tree, and put the spout in the tree, and then we're ready to go. So that's what's going on with these other lines. I have to fix this one too. This one's sticking up, it's laying down a bit too low. So when I put these lines in, the lowest point is supposed to be the main line. Then it's supposed to go up and up and up until you get to the end of the lateral. This is a very short lateral. It just goes right there, that birch tree, and then comes down around these maples and then down. So I just got to lift it up a little bit on that corner there and make sure it's high enough and it's sloping down towards the main line, because the idea is to have a natural slope of, you know, a little bit of a natural slope anyway on the lines, so that everything's kind of wanting to gravitate towards the main line and towards your sap hut anyway. And the pump is just helping it out a little bit, or a lot actually. But you don't want to have it sloping the wrong way or anything like that. So all right, so as you guys can see, we got a little tiny bit of water in there. The hose should pick it up. 5 gallons doesn't go very far in a 55-gallon drum. Yeah, let's see what we can come up with. This is a recirculation line. I don't know if I mentioned that before or not. So this side, it's kind of reversed, so it's confusing, I guess. I shouldn't have done it that way, but this side here comes from the tank itself. And it comes up here. This is a needle valve, so I can meter the flow through that line. And this comes out and it goes back outside again, and I teed it into this line. And the only reason I didn't tee it in this line in here was I just didn't have the room for it. I didn't want to drill holes and everything like that. I put a T in it. You guys seen it out there. I could have put it in here, but then I did these clear lines for a reason, because I wanted to see the sap going through, and I didn't want to take up room. I don't know if I got a T in here or not, but the T's are just as long as the, you know, as the valve, so it takes up a fair bit of room, right? So anyway, I just did it outside. I figured it'd be just as well. So anyway, we just got to turn this on this way, like that, and the pump comes on right away because it's reading 3.9 degrees outside. Battery level is 100%. I don't know if you'll be able to read it or not. This here is coming through flickery because it's the same frame rate, or the same cycle or whatever is the frame rate on the camera, so it flashes, but I think that one comes in all right. Anyway, let's turn that on a bit, see if we get some. Yep, there, it's coming there now. So you shouldn't need much water to start building a vacuum on it, but it doesn't really matter. We can crank her up. So that's wide open right there. So my worry is here, you can see it kind of building up too, but my worry is here that it's going to put too much head pressure on this pump, and it's going to have a hard time pushing it out of the thing, but we'll see how it goes anyway for now. So it looks like it is making it outside. You can see the trickle in there. So it is working, and it's pulling up on this side. You can see it coming through the lines. So keep in mind, that's just water now. The sap won't look any different, but it is just water. I'm going to tape these here two lines together. There, that's a little better. I don't know why I had to do that. Anyway. So we'll let that run for a few minutes here and see if it builds any vacuum at all. So I'm just walking around right now, seeing if I can hear any vacuum leaks or anything. There's pros and cons to running a vacuum system like this. I started off running buckets, just tap the trees, hang a bucket on the tree with a little lid on it. You know, that works great. Nothing wrong with it at all. Other than it's a lot more manual labor. This system is a pain in the ass to set it up the first time. Like running all these lines that are in front of me and behind me, running all these lateral lines and running that main line and the wire was pretty difficult. I did most of it myself, and yeah, it was just a pain in the ass. But you know, once it's done, it's done. You don't have to do it again. I leave it up year round, the main line, everything. It just stays up, and theoretically now, all I gotta do when I come out here in the spring is tap the trees, put a new spout in it on the end of the drop lines, and tap it in the tree. This year I kind of got a little bit ambitious. I built that hot. I was later finishing than I wanted it to be, so you know, I was a bit later tapping than I wanted to be and whatnot, but still, it was not that difficult. Like, we tapped 25 or 30 trees this morning, something like that. Now it's just gonna, I turned the vacuum pump on there, so it's gonna build a vacuum. It's gonna suck the sap from the lines into my tank there, and I can collect it from that one single collecting point. So I will say though, one improvement that I made in between, I don't know if you guys remember, but I guess it wasn't last sap season, it was the season before that. I went from using buckets on every individual tree to I went with 5-gallon buckets. So what I did with the 5-gallon buckets, I'll turn the camera around. So 5-gallon buckets are a pretty similar setup to this, basically. If I hear a vacuum leak right there. I don't have my pliers to tighten that either. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. I'll explain that in a minute. But so I went with 5-gallon buckets. I put a 5-gallon bucket on the ground right by the base of the tree, and like this tree here, these are pretty these are pretty small maples to tap, I'll be honest, but they produce pretty good. So like there's 4, I think there's 4, no, there's 3. There's 3 taps here on this tree. So I put a 5-gallon bucket on the ground at the base of the tree, and I run 3 lines up, the same as these here. These drop lines, just to be a bit longer, or they wouldn't be up as high in the tree. And I run them all down into the bucket. So when the tree produced its sap, instead of it going into individual buckets hanging on hooks on the tree, it would just go into the 1 5-gallon bucket at the base of the tree. So then I went from tapping 15 trees with 15 individual buckets, like the aluminum buckets, to tapping 50 trees with about 15 5-gallon buckets. So that was a big improvement. And then I switched over to this mainline system where I'm still tapping about the same 50 trees, but it all comes up to that one collection point up there. So these here are what's called a saddle. The saddle straddles the main line, the 3/4 inch main line. You drill a hole in it, and it's got a rubber kind of fitting, a rubber gasket, I guess. And you squeeze it down here, it ratchets. And there's a special tool for tightening these. So I got both of these saddles right now are leaking, so that's where I'm losing vacuum pressure on both of these lines. So what I need to do is tighten them up, and unfortunately I don't have with me a pair of pliers to do it. So we're not going to be able to tighten them. Anyway, I'm just going to run down the line and check a couple more. You can see what I was talking about if I look down the line here. See, I got to fix that. How it's got a bunch of like kinks in it. So all I got to do basically is zip tie it up to the wire, because the wire is tight. Just the zip ties have broken over the summer or whatever. It's just causing me a bit of an ass ache there, but it's not terrible. Yeah, I can hear a leak at that one too. Alright, so we're gonna assume that all those saddles are leaking. So I'm down the end of the main line now. You can see we are pulling a little bit of a vacuum. Not very much. I put a second gauge here at the end of the main line. It's well, it's funny. I did it this way. Here's the T here, or the elbow actually, at the very end of the line, and it's got a barb fitting on it and a hose running down to the gauge, which is zip tied to that tree. And the reason I zip tied it to that tree and I did it this way is because this main line is way over my head. This is like, I don't know, 8 or 9 feet off. This is as high as I can reach. This is probably 8 feet. I think the end of it down there where it connects on the tree is about 9 feet. So as high up as I can reach, I can't read nothing. And this here gauge is at eye level. The only thing is, it's not this year. This year we've had so much snow that this is supposed to be, I'm sure it's 8 feet. 7.5, 8 feet anyway. And it's up to my shoulders right now because there's that much snow on the ground. And that's supposed to be eye level, and it's like waist high. So that's just crazy. This here This here line is tapped into a tree too. So the main line, the wire for the main line is over my head here, but it's not really quite as high as I can reach. I can reach a lot higher than that. So anyway, this is the very end of our little sap run. You can see we've got a nice little babbling brook here, and this is our last tree that we've tapped. This one here I think is actually a sugar maple. Most of my trees are red maple. I don't have that many sugars. But we tapped that this morning. I had one tap left, and that was the only line I had with one tap on it. So, oh yeah, I feel like I should mention tensioning the main line here quickly before I go home. So when I ran the cable, you do the not the cable, but the wire first. You run the wire first. You run it all as tight as you can, basically. You've seen I got a ratchet strap on the other end of it, so I ratchet strapped it tight. And then to get it even more tight, I took another ratchet strap and I ratcheted it one way or the other. So I ratcheted it probably to that tree, I guess, over there. And then I put this wire around this tree so it holds it. So that's why there's kind of kinks like that way or that way in the line. I don't care so much if the line zigzags through the woods. The only thing I care about is going up and down. It can't go up and down. It can go this way and that way all at once. So to pull tension on the line, we just keep going that way or that way, wherever we can get a good tree to hook onto. The only thing I'd do different, and I'm probably going to change it at some point, is I would put turnbuckles on probably one side of this wire or something. Just something so I have a little bit of adjustability, because I mean, I could probably tighten a bit more, but the only way to do it would be to put a ratchet strap around it again and then take a piece out of the wire or something like that. So I think if a guy had a turnbuckle on it, it'd be the way to go. And I mentioned before too, during clean out last year, I like to put a shut-offs on all these lines so I can shut them off individually and push the water through them, because I had trouble last year. I probably will do it, because now I think about it, it was a pain in the ass. I had trouble last year with it. I pumped the water through to wash out the system, and 5 gallons wouldn't go very far. I think I pumped probably 15 or 20 gallons through it last year, and it's not that easy to take, you know, it's not that easy to take 5-gallon buckets full of water out here. That's, well, it's just as bad as taking sap home anyway. So probably I'll probably do something a little bit different this year. Howdy folks, figure I'd do a little update video here. I'm out at the maple sap operation. Anyway, it's been going all month, I guess, for the last month maybe, I don't know. It's it's middle of April or so. So anyway, it hasn't been doing too terrific. I don't know what went on, if it was too cold or what, because it was too cold. And yeah, I don't know, it hasn't made a whole lot. But so yeah, I'm just sitting here on the bike, but I got it pumping into that little, you can see the green lid on it, the 5-gallon bucket right there. So it's pumping into that right now from the drum, basically. The drum has about, well, when I started it had about 21 inches in it, I think, or 21 inches on the little scale there on the side of it. So I don't know, about half full, I guess, a little bit better than half full. So anyway, that's all the sap I've had so far this year. Hasn't been really a good year, I wouldn't say. I don't know, maybe coming in now we're gonna have a little bit more flow or whatever. I don't know. It was cold when I tapped and nothing really ran that much, and just lately it made a little bit. So anyway, take what we get, I guess. It doesn't really matter, it's all for fun. Everything seems to be working all right. I was having a little bit of trouble there with the solar panels keeping up to the battery. I guess with the little bit warmer weather, the pump's pretty well running 24/7. And we haven't been getting a ton of sun either, so the solar panels are having a hard time keeping up to the demand of the pump. I don't have quite enough reserve capacity with that single battery. I need to get a couple, I guess. 2 or 3 batteries, but anyway, that's something for next year. We'll get a couple batteries, but we'll limp through the rest of this year just fine, I'm sure. I just take the battery home and charge it, then it's good for another week or so. Anyway, you can see her there filling up. I gotta come over here and get a little bit of a closer shot of it. I just pulled the pipe off that goes into the tank and it's just filling up there. So I'll take a little turn around here. Everything's working pretty good in here. I put that gauge in finally so I could see the vacuum. It's not pulling very much, not even, I don't know what it is. -10 whatever inches of mercury. See the temperature pro was reading 7.3 degrees right now. Actually probably can't because I think it flashes on the screen. You'll see. Yeah, you can kind of see 7.4, which is baloney. It's not that warm. It's a bit off. Everything else seems to be working all right. That's the batteries under there. The one battery I do have, I should say. So everything seems to be running all right. I mainly want to do this video because I end up buying a new phone. My other phone finally bought a duster. The microphone quit on it, so that was kind of a problem. If you have a phone that doesn't have a microphone that works, that's a bit of an issue. So anyway, I never made any videos yet with this one. I wanted to kind of try it out. I've had it for, I don't know, 3 weeks now, maybe. So anywho, hey guys, just out the maple syrup operation, finishing up for the year. I can't do it one hand apparently. Just pulling the taps, there we go. Pulling the taps out of the trees. We're all done. There we go. All done for the year. Would have liked to have seen a little bit more sap, to be honest with you. I don't know, just the way the season went didn't really work out that good. I left the sap I had out here a little bit too long. It was getting too warm in the days, and I don't know, I just couldn't get out here or whatever. So there was about 15 gallons in the bucket, or in the barrel, and it was kind of yellow and cloudy, so I just dumped it out. But I got a little bit home from the season, and I'm gonna boil that down. I'll show you that in the next clip here. And yeah, we'll get a little bit of syrup out of it anyway, and we got a few changes we need to make for next year. Hey guys, we're boiling sap. My glasses are fogging up on me, but just finishing up the last little bit of syrup to boil down. I started off with 10 gallons, or down to maybe, I don't know, 2.5 I guess. So we get a little bit of syrup out of it anyway. It wasn't really another stellar season. I got a few issues to work out out at the sugar bush, but whatever. We get some syrup out of it and put on our pancakes, I guess, if nothing else. So I've showed you guys this setup before. This is a 18 by 34 inch by 6 inch deep stainless steel pan. I got it sitting on top of a stove there. It's a 2-burner Explorer propane stove, so it works pretty good for boiling. It's just it's a little slow. I wish the burners had more oomph to them. We are running a little bit low on propane right now though, so that's probably why. But yeah, I've been pretty happy with it. It works pretty good. For boiling maple syrup, you need something with lots of surface area to let the sap boil better. And this works pretty good for me. It wasn't a very expensive setup, but I think next year we're gonna make a little bit of improvement. We're gonna get one of those little reverse osmosis buckets, and we'll cut some of the water out of it before we start boiling it. So anyway, it's my little setup. Works pretty good for the amount of sap that I do. If you do more than that, like I tap about 50 trees, so if you did more than that, you'd probably want a bigger setup. It'd be nice to go to something like wood fired, so we wouldn't have to burn as much propane, but this is what I got. So, and that pan can be adapted anyway. You could build a stove for it or something like that, and I think it'll work pretty good. But anyway, that's about it. So we'll continue boiling it down, and then once it gets too far down in the pan that it starts, you know, getting too hot or whatever, we'll empty it out and take it in the house and do it on the stove from there. Boiling down the last of the sap. Just put some more in so it stopped boiling. Got a little bit left to go. Then we'll have our syrup. So you can see it boiling. And I got this here. It's just more, it's on the warmer. I think I mentioned it in the last clip, but just so it doesn't drop the temperature too much when I pour it in there. When it boils down, like it'll boil down so much, then I can dump that in there. And if it's cold right out of the jug, it'll drop the temperature too much, and I'll have to heat back up again to boil. So I just warm it up on there, and it's not too bad. I could even boil it, I guess, if I wanted to. But no, so far so good. Alright, getting down to the wire now. I just fill up this here test thing, and this here will float in it at 60 on the dial, or the gauge, I guess. It's a bricks meter when it's syrup. Should be done here in the next couple minutes. It's cooled down a little bit, but it's just about perfect. There we go. Not a big haul this year, but that's it. Good enough for me. I'm happy with it. Make some changes for next year. I'll show you guys my ideas, and hopefully have a better season. Alright guys, you can see behind me, we're here out of the maple syrup operation again, and I just wanted to follow up the last video or whatever with some of the things I want to change out here for next year. And there's a few things, few minor things. The big change was switching over from the bucket system to the centralized system with the sap line. So we're just going to do a little bit of fine tuning of that for next year, and hopefully have some better results. Alright, so we've got a few changes we want to make out here, and it's going to start all with our lateral lines. You can see them behind me, the blue lines. Here's one right here. Yep, right here. So basically, one of the main problems I had last season, the season's behind us now, was that a lot of our lines have like sags in them and stuff. I didn't really do a good enough job this season anyway with straightening them out and making sure they run all good and proper. I'll show you here what I'm looking at. I'll turn the camera around. So you guys can see there the blue line just sagging. Now this line is supposed to run, like the highest point is supposed to be there, and it's supposed to run down and down and down and down until it gets to the main line way back there. But like I said, I didn't do quite good enough of a job this year straightening them out. It looks worse now than it did when I started the season, to be honest, but still though, I just didn't do a good enough job making sure my slopes were all right, heading back towards our main sap collection point. I think what I'd like to do for next year is something like what the main line is set up here. You can see on our main line, it's set up with a wire, and that wire is tensioned at the end there, and then you strap your main line onto it with zip ties and whatnot. Like I got zip ties here. So that's what keeps tension on the main line, and the main line stayed pretty good even through last summer, but it's still, I need to figure out what's going on with it. I need to get more zip ties or wire ties or something just to help keep it up. Like, I'll show you here. Oh, I showed it before earlier in the clips, but I fought with it all season. So as you guys can see there's quite a little bend to the main line even, and I think one of my problems was a lot of the sap was just collecting in the hollows, like in the low spots of the pipe, and just wasn't making it to the end of our line. So that's kind of the main things that we need to work on out here, is getting our slopes right again and making sure everything's tight. I think that'll help a lot, because I found when I pulled the taps on the trees, I noticed that a lot of the lines were full of sap, which kind of told me that the sap was coming out of the trees, but it wasn't getting to the main line properly, and therefore it wasn't running down to the hut properly, even with the little bit of vacuum on it to help it out. It just wasn't cutting it. So that's what we're going to try to upgrade for next season. So that's about all we really need to change as far as the system itself goes. In here in the hut, there's not really a whole lot I want to change. I do want to finish. I mentioned before that I was working on a new kind of computer system to run my pump. I'm going to finish that. That's kind of like an inside job. I can work with that any rainy day or whatever. Pick away at that. It's probably going to be powered by Arduino or Raspberry Pi or something like that. So that's just another little small project. It doesn't have to be finished, but my plan is to get it finished. As far as the pump setup itself, it's pretty good. We're going to change a little bit on it though, I think, and we'll show you that right now. Alright, so the pump setup itself is pretty well as good as it's going to get. Like I said, a few small changes that I want to make. First thing here is with the pump itself. I've been running this pump here now for 2 seasons, and you know, it's been working okay, but I've never been able to get really any more. Well, I shouldn't say never. Last year I got more vacuum pressure off it than I did this year, so I'm wondering if the internals of the pump aren't starting to wear out a little bit. So I'm going to take the pump apart and I'm going to rebuild it and try to get a little bit more vacuum out of it, just freshen things up. It doesn't cost very much to rebuild these little pumps, so it won't hurt to do that. Our valve system here worked pretty good. I didn't really see much need for the valve to turn. I kind of ran it wide open all the time anyway, trying to boost that vacuum gauge up. Our vacuum gauge is right here, of course, and yeah, it worked pretty good. I like it having it in here. It's a good setup, and of course we have our computer system here. Well, computer system. This is the original one that we ran outside. It worked good all season. I never had any trouble with it. I messed something up on the battery level gauge, so we're going to try to fix that and get a battery level indicator working again. And of course our solar system, everything worked pretty good with that. I don't have any complaints at all. As far as the solar side of it goes, the battery side of it, the battery just could not keep up to what we had. I think the battery was a bit weak anyway to start with. I used it last season and it just kind of sat around. I used it for a few things we probably shouldn't have been using it for throughout the summer, and I think it's done. So I mean, it's just a cheap Walmart battery. So I think one thing we're going to do is we're going to swap out the one battery we have. When I built this box for it, I built it with enough room for 3 batteries, so I'll probably upgrade to at least 2, maybe 3 new batteries, and our system should be able to keep up with that. Got some power in there now because I haven't been running the pump. It's just been charging the batteries, so as long as it can keep up, it's no problem. The solar panels are rated for I think it was 200 watts. You can't see them, they're way up on the roof. Maybe the other side might be see them, but they're rated for 200 watts. But who knows how accurate that is. You know, they're just Chinese grade. There they are there, look. So, anyway, we will upgrade our battery bank in here, upgrade our computer, rebuild the pump, and other than that, I think it should be good to go. We'll try to get a little bit more vacuum out of it there next year. Alright guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know the maple syrup operation doesn't really strike a lot of you guys, but it is something that I'm kind of interested in, so I just do a video on it. This year I only did the one video. This probably be the same thing going forward. I know it, you know, it's not a big hit anyway. Last year I did it and I might have got 100 views on each video or something like that, so it just wasn't worth it to do videos over and over again on it, even though there's not much else going on in that time of year when I usually put it out. So I just saved that all up this year. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So anyway, thanks for watching. Those of you who did, those of you who made it this far, we'll catch you in the next one, and later guys.